Well, good morning and welcome to the Pulse-WV Live, a network that beats to the heart of God. I'm your host, John Fowler. Today is Monday, November the 7th, and we're just kind of moving right along in this month like we are in every other month, and we're so glad to have you tuned in today. Tomorrow is a very important day, which is Election Day 2022, and so the topic of conversation is on the podcast today is politics in the pulpit. And so I want to talk to you about a few things that may help you and may give you some enlightenment on what's going on in the world today. Now, we do know that people have said this, and we know that this has been said for many, many years, that is there a separation between church and state? So let me tell you what that means. A separation of church and state is a separation of religion and government mandated under the Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause of the U.S. Constitution, which forbids governmental establishments to preference on a religion. And it also, along with this, this gives and preserves religious freedom from government intrusion. So there is a separation between church and state into the aspect of saying, okay, the government cannot, under this Constitution, invade a religion or a church. And so many churches today are a 501c3. And a lot of people have said that that's dangerous because that gives the federal government control of your church at some aspect. And so you just have to understand that the due process is the fact is that the federal government has to stay out of the church and has to stay out of religion. And so I know during the COVID scare that came out, a couple of years ago, the governor and several other people asked that the church would close down to eliminate the spread of COVID. And I know during that time, we had church every Sunday with our praise team, and I preached, and we had a limited amount of audience that came, to the Pulse, but we were open. We weren't closed as an aspect of saying, hey, no church services at all. But when it comes to politics and the pulpits, I think that there's a lot of preachers that stay away from it. And therefore, it causes a congregation not to have wisdom on how to vote. The Bible tells us to not be ignorant, but it tells us that we need to study to show ourselves approved. And so with the election coming up on Tuesday, November the 8th, I want to encourage you to understand the candidate that you're voting for. Understand the issue that you're voting for. There's an Amendment 2, 3, and 4 that are on the ballot this year. You need to review those things. You need to understand how you need to vote towards those things. And then you also need to research the candidate, see what they believe. Know the candidate that you're going to vote in. Are they pro-life? Do they believe in a marriage union of just a man and a woman only? See, one thing that we have to understand is that we are the salt of the earth, and the church, if the church would become the church, then we would have more of an influence in politics today. There would be more Christians that are running in politics. There would be more changes that would take place, and we wouldn't see the things that we're seeing in this world today if the church is being the church. I mean, stop and think of a lot of the issues that are going on in the world today. Would they be going on today if the church was really giving a voice on what the church believed and what God says, and not opinion, but what God says in the Bible? Now look at what in Matthew chapter 5:13. Listen to this. Salt and light. Ye are the salt of the earth. But if the salt has lost its savor, where shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but be to cast out into the trodden under the feet of man. Verse 14 says, ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on the candlestick, and giveth light to all, keyword, all that are in the house. So let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. You think about that. We are the light of the world. Not only that, we're the salt of the world. That means that we have authority in that area to be heard and to change circumstances. We have that ability to do that. Now, I'm not talking about, I remember years ago that there was a man, and I actually know him, and he would scream across the street at the abortion clinic, and he would scream to the people and tell them that they are going to hell, and they arrested him for that. And I believe that we can do things a lot better than that. We don't have to get into protests where people are getting hurt. We have to just walk in authority. When we walk in the authority of God, then no one can supersede God. There is no name that is above him. And so we represent God. Yes, things get heated sometimes. Yes, things get out of control sometimes. But if we can control the flesh, keep the flesh under submission, and be loving, and that's the main thing. Christians are known by their love, not by their hate. And see, when you can love, when maybe the opposing side just has so much hate within inside of them, that should tell you something. That should tell you something. And so I want to encourage you. I don't have a long podcast today because I want to talk to you about politics in the pulpit. And I want to talk to you about your opportunity to have your vote heard tomorrow. I want to encourage you to vote. Know your candidate. Don't just, if you don't understand it, leave it blank. Don't punch the ticket. And you can see changes take place. And I encourage you to pray for your leaders. Whether you agree or disagree with our president, pray for him. Whether you agree or disagree with our vice president or our secretary of state or whoever it may be, the speaker of the house, you need to pray for them. Pray for salvation. Pray for the love of God to invade their soul. And guess what? There are some of these things have to take place for the Lord to come back. But let's change as many things as we can, and we can see God do great things in our lives. So I want to encourage you to go vote tomorrow, November 8th, Tuesday. It's a very important election, and we encourage you to do so. You want to become a part of this ministry and you want to give to this ministry, we really encourage you to do that, and you will be blessed, I promise you. You can text the word PULSE at 1-304-244-3187, or you could go to our website, thepulsechurch.com, give through PayPal, or mail your love gift to P.O. Box 141, Gassaway, West Virginia, 26624. I pray you have a great day. John Sandy in the house tomorrow for the next edition of the Pulse WV Live, a network that beats to the heart of God.